So in our last lesson, we have entered into the chapter on filth. So we have completed speaking about the sunnahs and the things that are offensive or makruh when it comes to ablution and bathing the obligatory bath. So now we have come into the chapter where the author speaks about filth and the types of filth and ways to remove them. So in our last lesson we spoke about the dog. We spoke about al-khamr, that is any liquor, wala muhtarama wan nabith, the author speaks about a liquor that is respected, khamr that is respected, and I mentioned that the meaning of khamr that is respected is liquor that is used to produce vinegar. So in the process of producing any vinegar, at one stage it becomes any liquor. So this is permissible. This is any permissible because why? Because the purpose is not to attain any liquor but to attain vinegar. But because of the process of fermentation is such that before it turns into vinegar, it becomes liquor, that intoxicates. But here the author speaks mentioned that even so, that kind of liquor that is respected is also considered to be a filth. It is also considered to be a filth. That is why he say walau muhtarama, because all kinds of khamr is najis. It is a filth, including the liquor that is used for fermentation, for fermentation before it turns to vinegar. One nabiz, and I mentioned nabiz is liquor that is made of dates. This is what you call it. It's termed as a nabiz. So it carries the ruling of liquor. So basically anything that intoxicates, and this based on the illah or on the reason why all kinds of liquor is haram, because the illah or the reason is that it is muskir, that it intoxicates. So intoxication is the reason that everything that intoxicates is considered to be khamr, carries the ruling of liquor, and it is haram, and likewise it is a najis, it is considered to be a filth. So if a person, for example, he prays and he has a bottle of liquor or beer in his pocket, the prayer is not valid. The prayer is not valid, and because it is considered to be a filth. And likewise, many people until today ask about perfumes. I do not know whether I spoke about perfumes, but the thing about perfumes, I think I mentioned last time that there are certain perfumes that use fermented alcohol, and most perfumes do not use any fermented alcohol. So that the type of alcohol that is najis is the type of alcohol that intoxicates. That is the thing. So we have to understand. But the fact that nowadays there are many types of alcohol that you are unable to ascertain because there are too many, and some are of chemical compounds, then we have to ask the question, this is based on the illah. Is that alcohol or ethanol or all these names, whatever it is, we are not concerned with the names, because not all types of alcohol intoxicates. This is the thing we have to understand. It doesn't mean that you see on the label alcohol, automatically you say it's haram, because nowadays it's different. People do not use any fermented alcohol in perfumes. It's quite rare actually to use any fermented alcohol, because fermented alcohol has a strange smell. And usually people don't use any in perfume. Nowadays they use any chemical compounds, and they create their own type of alcohol. So this is the thing. So many of these alcohol compounds cannot be consumed because it is not edible in the first place. So it does not intoxicate, but it can kill you. So the thing is, we do not know for sure what type of alcohol that is used, whether it is fermented alcohol or non-fermented alcohol, whether it intoxicates or not intoxicates. So I lean on the position that to avoid any is better. Correct or not? To avoid. In fiqh we have this ruling, and they call it al-ihtiyat. This is based on the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, where the Prophet ﷺ mentioned da' ma yaribuka ila ma la yaribuka. Leave the things that cause doubt in your hearts. And if you are doubtful, for example, I am kind of doubt, this perfume and you got alcohol, but I wait later, I pray, I think inside my prayers, all this, then avoid. This is not any something any there's darura, or you cannot live any without. There are so many any atar and all this any perfumes any without alcohol. So this any should not any concern busy any our minds. So if we are in doubt, and this is the position that I take, I don't use any alcohol, any perfume. So sometimes what I see, some people they are inclined to the opinion that it is okay to use alcohol and perfume, that it is not considered to be a filth. But sometimes they go around and display at people, meaning they offer, for example, perfume and so on. So that is not a wise thing to do, because you do not know the people who are around, whether they are of that opinion or not that opinion. So if you give to people and it's something that they do not agree with, then it can become any issue. And sometimes in Majlis or Maulid, and for example, people go around and do the atar, correct or not? And sometimes this atar have alcohol in the compound. Although we know any of these differences, but it is not appropriate for a person to do it, because there are people out there until today that they are not inclined to the opinion that alcohol is not a filth. They regard alcohol as a filth, so you cause any problems for them, that they have to wash their hands before they perform the prayer. So all these things we have to take into consideration. Now we go on to the next one, and the author mentioned wal maita, and this is a good lesson for today. The one I highlight in red is basically our last lesson. So he mentioned wal maita, and it is basically the corpse. All kinds of corpse, except any human, fish, and grasshoppers. And this based on the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. When it comes into the fish, the things that live in the sea. The things that live in the sea. This based on the hadith that is narrated, where the Prophet ﷺ, when he was asked about the ocean, so he said al-hillu maitatuhu, he said at-tahuru ma'uhu. At-tahuru ma'uhu, yani the water, sea water, is tahur. Tahur meaning tahirun fi nafsihi, mutahirun li ghayrihi, that is pure in itself and can purify. Ma mutlaq, sea, the sea is mutlaq. Then the Prophet mentioned wal hillu maitatuhu, aw kama qala sallallahu alaihi wasallam, anything that lives in the sea, the carcass is not a filth, meaning you don't have to slaughter it. If a fish dies, for example in the ocean, you can take it and you can eat it. And this is what we are doing. Nobody slaughter any fishes. So fishes it comes to us in the state that they are already dead. So the fact that it lives in the ocean, then there is no problem. There is no problem. Even this we have some differences between our madhab and the Hanafites. Because some scholars, for example, other than Mazhab Imam Shafi, mention only fish, because there is a particular hadith that speaks about as-samak. So they mention only fish, and other than fish, it is not halal. Other than fish, it is not halal. So it is quite difficult in that in that position. But I know of people who, subhanallah, they only eat fish. When it comes to seafood, they only eat fish, based on that narration and some differences in these issues. But as far as we are concerned in our Madhab Imam Shafi, and you find, for example, Al-Imam Ibn Hajar in Bulugh al-Maram, and if you open Bulugh al-Maram, the first hadith he speaks about this, the first hadith in Babu Tahara, because Al-Imam Ibn Hajar he was speaking about the hadith of the Prophet, and when he speaks about Ma'un Mutlaq, so he said Tahuru Ma'u, the sea water is Tahur, because there are people who ask the question, for example, how can sea water is mutlaq when it is salty? So here it is an exceptional case, because of the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. So the Prophet ﷺ, when he mentioned, so it becomes an exception. Likewise in the grasshoppers, al-jarad. So the carcass and grasshoppers is halal. You can eat even if it is dead. So these are the exceptional cases, and pertaining to human beings, they are not filth, but they are cannot be eaten haram to eat the body of the human being, but they are not considered to be filth. And the dalil is based on the Quran, because in the Quran Allah said, وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي Adam, for verily we have honored the children of Adam. So children of Adam is honored by Allah. So because due to that, that our bodies and is considered to be pure even any after any we pass away. This is an honor any for insan. Wadamu wal qayhu wa rawthu wal bawlu. All these any types any of filth. Blood, pus, vomit, filth from humans or animals, whether animals you can eat or you cannot eat. The urine of animals any that you can eat or you cannot eat. Yani the prevailing judgment in our madhab is that the what you call it, the filth any of humans and animals that even any animals any that we can eat is a filth. This is any the prevailing judgment any in our madhab any al-qawlul mu'tamad. Even though any their opinion within our madhab any that says that the filth any of the animals any that we can eat is not considered to be najis. It's not considered to be najis. And if, for example, the filth any of the sheep or chicken, all these animals any we can eat, so the filth any is not considered to be najis. But of course any this is not a strong any opinion in our madhab, that everything in terms any of filth and urine any is considered to be najis. So blood any is understood, whether blood and you speak about human blood or blood any of animals. Pulse any is basically the blood any that comes out when there is a cut or injury, yani yellowish any in color. And vomit is something any that has food that has entered into your stomach and it is vomited out. This is the meaning any of vomit that is filth. Not any vomit that comes into your throat and you spit it out. This is not considered to be filth. So the filth any is, it comes any if it enters in the stomach. This is the thing. If it enters in the stomach and you vomit it, that is any a filth. Even though any it is in a short any period any of time. Filth any from humans and animals any we spoke about, and urine yani from human beings or animals, any all types any of urine any is considered to be a filth. And then he mentioned wal madyu wal wadiyu. Wal madyu wal wadiyu, yani we have any liquid any that is called al madyu or al madi. Al madi yani is a colorless any liquid that usually comes out any from the private part any of the males when there is a sexual arousement. When there is any sexual any arousement any before the coming out of sperm, before the ejaculation any of sperm, usually there will be this any liquid, colorless any liquid which is sticky, that comes out any before yani the sperm. This is called al-madi. Al-madi. So this is any considered to be a filth. Sperm any is not a filth, but mazi is a filth. So the characteristics any of this liquid is that it is colorless and sticky. It is colorless any and sticky. And then we have another one that is called al-wadi. Al-wadi or al-wadiyu. This is a liquid that is whitish any in color, different any from madi. Madi any no color. But when it comes to wadi, it is whitish in color that comes out together with the urine. And this usually it comes out when a person is extremely tired, or a person and he carries something that is too heavy. Something that is too heavy until this whitish liquid comes out. So there is no sexual arousement, and it is due to fatigue. It is due to tiredness. This liquid and it comes out. When it comes to madhi, usually it is due to sexual arousement. Usually. But it can also come out when a person is tired, or when a person is dehydrated, for example. At times it comes out when your body is hot. And then he mentioned wal ma'ul mutaghayyiru sa'ilu min famin na'im. Yani when a person is sleeping and the fluid that comes out from his mouth that originates from the stomach. So it carries the ruling of vomit actually. And this can happen if a person sleeps why lying on his back, lying down, and then the feet is brought up for example. So he slept, and before he sleeps he ate a lot, for example. So the acid in the body slowly goes up to the throat. So when what you call it, and it mixes with the saliva and it comes out, and usually it has a bad smell. This is what the author is saying. So it is not saliva. Saliva is not najis. So, but when saliva becomes so smelly, then we know that this is an effect of the fluid that comes out from the stomach. So there is a mixture of the saliva and this fluid, and this is najis. This is najis because it takes the ruling of vomit, and it comes out from the stomach. And then he mentioned وَمَنِيُّ الْكَلْبِ وَالْخِنْزِيرِ, yani the sperm of the dog and the swine, وَالْمُتَوَلِّدْ مِنْ أَحَدِهِمَا, and their progeny from either one of them. The progeny any of either one of them. Yeah, we haven't mentioned about this. So the sperm any of the dog and the pig, it is najis. And because why? Because this is an exception. Because dogs and swines, they are najis mughallada. They considered to be major filth. And dogs, based on the hadith of Abu Hurairah, for example, the Prophet ﷺ mentioned, إِذَا وَلَغَ الْكَلْبُ فِي إِنَاءِ أَحَدِكُمْ فَلْيَغْسِلْهُ سَبْعًا إِحْدَاهُنَّ بِتُرَابٍ. Yani if a dog leaks from one of your containers, then you have to wash it 7 times, one of it with soil. Based on the hadith of Abu Hurairah, in our mother Imam Shafi'i, we consider dogs to be najis mughallada, any major filth. And then our scholars does analogy on pigs, because they are saying that if the saliva of the dog is something that is always is a filth, then pigs are worse than dogs. Pigs are worse than dogs, because at least the dogs when they walk or when they can, they will open their mouth, so their tongue is exposed to the air. Their tongue is exposed to the air, but saliva is not despite any of this exposure. So when they do this analogy with swines, our ulama mentions swines are worse than dogs in terms in their dirtiness. So they mention that it carries the ruling of najis mughallada, and this is a prevailing judgment in our madhab. We consider dogs and swines to be najis mughallada. The meaning of najis mughallada, filth that is obligatory for you to wash 7 times. Yani if it touches any of your body parts or your clothes, so you have to wash it 7 times. One of them using soil. So when we say that pigs and swines are major filths, likewise the sperm, because it originates from the sperm. So if the essence is a filth, then the sperm from which it originates is also considered to be a filth. Wal mutawallid min ahadihima, and the progeny from one of them. Meaning, if a dog and a swine if a dog and what you call it, for example, sheep, for example, a dog and a sheep crossbreed, a dog and a sheep, and the what you call it, it produces a sheep. A sheep originally is not a filth, it's pure. But the fact that one of the parents is najis mughallada, it becomes najis mughallada. So the ruling of the filth follows to the parents. Yani either the mother or the father. So when there is a crossbreed between one of najis and mughallada, the progeny becomes najis mughallada. Likewise pertaining to the swine, and if a swine crossbreed with a sheep, for example, it comes out sheep, like it carries the ruling of najis mughallada. Wa labanu ma la yu'kalu lahmuhu illa al-adami, and milk from animals that we cannot consume the flesh, animals that you cannot eat. For example, if a person asks milk of the elephant, for example, milk of the elephant, we know that elephant is something that is not edible. It is not permissible for a Muslim to eat the meat of elephants, or the meat of what do you call it, this tigers or lions. It is not permissible. It is a filth, correct or not? The carcass of these animals is considered to be a filth, so it is not permissible to consume the meat. Likewise, we cannot consume the flesh, and we cannot consume the milk, because the milk it comes from the flesh. The milk comes from the flesh, and if you were to say that the carcass of a particular animal, or the meat of a particular animal is not halal, it is not permissible for us to consume. Likewise, the milk. If the flesh is non-halal, the milk will also be non-halal, because the milk comes from the flesh. So if the animal we cannot consume, the milk is is not permissible. It's a filth, and the milk is considered to be the filth. Illa al-adami, except the milk any of human beings. Although any human beings, we cannot consume any the flesh of human beings, but we say that human beings, it's not najis. Correct or not? Human being is not najis. So the milk of human beings is also not najis. This is an exceptional case, and based on the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, where the Prophet speaks any about human beings. And also based on the Quran, when Allah said that Allah honored the children of Adam. So this is an exceptional case. وأما مني الحيوان غير الكلب والخنزير وما تولد من أحدهما والعلقة والمضغة ورطوبة الفرج فطاهرات. But the sperm any of other than the pig and the swine, from the dogs any and the swine, and anything that crossbreeds any between them and the progeny, everything any is the sperm any is pure. Yani it is not a filth. For example, if a person say the sperm any of the lion or the sperm of the elephant, sperm is pure. Sperm any is pure. So we have to differentiate any between sperm and milk. So earlier we spoke about milk, but when it comes to sperm, all sperms any are pure except any from the sperm of the dogs and the swine, because dogs and swine are considered to be a major filth. That is the reason. Other than dogs and swine, all forms any of sperm any is pure, not a filth. And likewise, the alaqa. Alaqa yani is a zygote. The alaqa yani is a zygote. Zygote any is a clot any of blood. It is any a clot any of blood any when before any it forms any into the fetus. So it clings any to the womb. This is called alaqa. Wal mudra, when there is flesh, the blood transforms into flesh. So all this any is considered to be pure. Why? Because it carries any the ruling any of sperm. Because initially any it comes any from sperm. Initially any it comes any from sperm. So it carries any the ruling any of sperm. So whether it becomes any alaqa or it becomes any mudra, it is still pure if that animal any is pure. Wa rutubatul farj, and here the author any now he is speaking any about rutubatul farj. Right, now any he speaks any about the what you call it. There is a mistake any here in the translation. So let me rectify this. The wetness any of the female private part. So here he is speaking any about the vagina. Female any private parts. The wetness and what is the meaning? Any the moisture any that is present on the surface any of the vagina. The moisture or the wetness on the surface, on the surface of the female private parts is deemed pure. Yani is considered to be pure. So what is the meaning? You see, when it comes into the female any private parts any the vagina, we are speaking any about the outer, not the inner. So the outer part any of the vagina, there are what you call it, some skin any that is kind of folded. So in between any at times any what happens was if there is sweat, if she is any perspiring, so what happens was what will happen? What will happen any is the sweat any mixes any with the moisture any in between any the skin, and then it forms like a sticky form any of wetness any that is a bit any sticky. So this is pure basically. Basically what the author is saying, that this is pure, because sometimes any if a woman doesn't understand and she will be thinking that this is a filth. This is any a filth. So we have any to understand. We have to teach any our wives and our daughters any, for example, any if they ask any when they see stains any, for example, any at their what you call it underwears, then we have to understand and they have to understand that this is not any considered to be a filth if the wetness any is only on the surface any of the vagina. But if the wetness or the fluid comes from inside, then it is a filth. If it comes any from inside. So here we differentiate any between the wetness any of the vagina, the fluid any that comes any from inside, and the wetness that is happening any on the outside. So these are two different things. So one is a filth and the other one is not a filth. So usually when a woman is perspiring, and if nothing comes out from the inside, which she can feel, or she knows, and for example by her experience, that this kind of fluid is a type that comes in from the inside, usually anything that comes in from in the internal part of the vagina, it has any the characteristic is that it is any very sticky, for example, and it has any certain colors. But when comes to the wetness of the outer surface of the private parts, for women, and they will know, for example, they can differentiate that this is it comes in from the outer part of the vagina, or it comes in from the internal part of the vagina. So basically, the author is speaking about if the wetness is a result of the outer part of the vagina, it is pure, and it is not any filth. It is not any filth. This one, and he said wa rutubatul farj, and rutuba in the Arabic language, and it is moisture. The moisture that forms up on the surface of the vagina. So this form of wetness and is tahirat. Yani it is not any filth, but it is pure. Wal juz'ul munfasilu min al hayawan kamaitatihi, and the part of what you call it, the animal that is cut off, the body of the animal that is cut off is considered to be a carcass. Yani if for example, if you see a sheep and then you cut part of the flesh of the sheep while the sheep is alive, it becomes a filth. It becomes filth because it takes the gulling of the carcass. It takes the gulling of the carcass. Unless if you slaughter the sheep. If you slaughter the sheep, then it becomes halal. So the flesh is not najis. But if you cut the flesh of the sheep while the sheep is still alive, now that is a carcass. So if anyone has questions, and you can ask. We have a few minutes left before the time of Isha. If you have questions, you can ask through the YouTube comments. The Majid Khalid in YouTube. Then he mentioned illa sha'r al-ma'kul. Illa sha'r al-ma'kul. Except for hair, feather or cranes, fur of the cattle, fur of the camel, and the lights. Pertaining to fur, no problem. Pertaining to the hairs, the wool of the sheep, for example, while the sheep is still alive, we cut the wool. That is permissible, and this is based on the hadith in the Quran, in Surah An-Nahl, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned wa min awbariha wa ash'ariha mata'un lakum, that from the fur and the hairs of these animals that you can consume, that it is made permissible for you, and it's not considered to be a filth. There is a question here. Assalamu alaikum salam. Is rabbit edible? Yes, rabbit is edible, and you can eat rabbits, but you have to slaughter it. You have to slaughter it. So inshallah, we will stop here because of time. Sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول حي على الصلاة الصلاة